As promised yesterday, I got a fourth video in 4 days for you guys. What the hell is going on? It must be 2020. Anyway, I promised I wanted to have a discussion with you guys about two topics here, the Electoral College and the two-party system here in America. Um, how I think both are either good or bad, my personal thoughts of things, and thank you again for all the feedback you guys have been given. There's been some real civil discussion. Um, One Russian bot attack, the usual. It's 2020, guys, right? Anyway, um, and I know that I'm trying to read a lot of your guys' comments because I like seeing the discussion and what you guys think about the political system here in America, how we elect our president, how people vote, etc. I try to put a heart or like the comment on every comment that I read. I don't get to everyone, but if I click the like thing under your comment, that means I absolutely read it. And don't feel ignoring you guys by not replying to everyone. A lot of points are ones that I want to make in like a video today, and another one I have planned tomorrow, and then there's another one where I'm going to make after election day. So we got 3 more videos coming from me, including this one. Sorry. Anyway, let's talk about the two-party system here in America. Um, I personally find contention, and by the way, my opinions expressed here are obviously my opinion. I'm not trying to say like this is how you should think about the two-party system, how you should, not accept the two-party system or accept the two-party system, etc., and the Electoral College for that matter. That disclaimer out of the way. The two-party system here in America, I think one of my political science professors in college put it the best in that he said, 40% of the voters are going to vote Republican, and this is in a general election. 40% of total voters are going to vote Republican, 40% of total voters are going to vote Democrat, and it's only that 20% in the middle that are going to have a chance of voting for one or the other or neither of the above. Okay? So what he's getting at is so many voters here in America have like drawn that line in the sand. I am a lifelong Republican. I am a lifelong Democrat. Nothing, it doesn't matter what the candidate is, who the candidate is. I'm not voting for them unless they have that R after their name or they have that D after their name. Someone is anti-NRA. Okay, I'm a lifelong Democrat. It doesn't matter who's up there as the Republican candidate. I'm against the NRA. The Republican Party favors the NRA. I'm not going to vote for that candidate. Well, I'm for abortion. Democrats are seen as the party that kills babies. I'm never going to vote for a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Republican. I can't stand seeing innocent babies getting killed by abortion. Okay? It's people with minds like that, people that become closed-minded, if you will, because you could have a Democrat that says, I'm not too keen on abortion. I think that abortion laws should be changed. I don't care. Democrats are still for abortion. I'm not voting for you. And you have the Republican candidate says, you know what? We need major firearm reform, and the NRA is an organization that cannot be supported. Well, I don't care. The Republican Party still favors the NRA. I'm not voting for you. Like, it's that type of closed-minded logic that it doesn't matter as long as they have that D or the R after their name, that 40% on one side and the 40% on the other side, which is to the party like 80% of the total voters in either party, are going to vote based on party only. I find that hugely problematic in that a lot of people become just blind voters. They just go in, it's like, well, I voted Republican the last 20 elections, so what's to stop now? I don't really care what the politician stands for. I know they stand for the party. And the same thing for the Democrats. They stand for the party. I know what the party stands for, so I'll just presumptively assume they stand for everything that I ideologically back in the party itself. It leads to just apathy of looking into what your candidate stands for. You're just assuming they stand for everything that you want them to stand for, and it just becomes a lazy voting process. Just a lazy voting process. Because again, you could have a red cup and a blue tin can, and it doesn't matter. 80% of the Republicans are going to vote for the red cup, and 80% of the Democrats are going to vote for that tin can, just because one's red and one's blue. and one has a D on it and one has an R on it. Okay, so that's where I find contention with it, in that, people vote just one way or the other, no matter what. You just assume that they are on the same ideological level of understanding in the party, of issues in the party, and you don't need to look into it, because obviously they are, because they're on my party's platform. So now, what I will give credence to and acceptance to and feel is a justifiable process is how you get to these final one person for each party. The preliminary voting process, I feel, is voted on by a more versed voter, someone that isn't just going to vote willy-nilly, because obviously you're only selecting from a crop of Democratic candidates and Republican candidates. It could be as many as 20 at a time. You get to see the Republicans go against each other. So you're not just picking someone that just has the R or the D after their name. You're picking from a crop of people that have the R after their name and the crop of people that have the D after their name. And then you can burp. Anyway, that I feel, as part of the two-party system here in America, is a very good part of the process. I feel that forces people to look into things, because again, you're not just voting your party favoritism now. You're voting someone who you feel is the more ideological representation of where your party should be going. And that ultimately is the ultimate temperature test for the political climate, because if someone is super ultra conservative and they run away at the election, you can just tell that that's the way the people are going right now. And then you see if the Democratic candidate is a bit more conservative than liberal, you go, oh, the country is actually leaning a bit more conservative right now, because the super ultra liberal candidates got pushed off the docket, and the ultra conservative one over here, and the partly conservative guy kind of went over here. So it's actually a very good way to take the temperature of the political mind of the country. And studies have shown that the people that vote in preliminary elections tend to be the more versed the more versed voters in as far as studying, and it's a much lower crop of number people that vote compared to the general election that ultimately selects the president. So I've always appreciated that aspect of it, because it tells you which way the country is pointing in a totality, because you can look down on things and say, like, it's interesting that the Democrats picked someone that was a bit more on the conservative end of things and a less progressive type of candidate. So yeah, or it's just you see that they sabotaged the guy named Bernie 2 times in a row. Anyway, so the two-party system is something that I feel is both flawed and a good thing. Again, how we get to the final two people, I think, is a very good way of testing the political climate. But the way that we ultimately select them, it's mostly just a bunch of closed-minded voters that, they're just choosing their party person. And that's all it comes down to. And that I have a huge problem with. And that 20% in the middle, while it is enough to tip an election, we shouldn't be relying on a process where just the 20% in the middle basically are the only open-minded people that decide the election. If you think about it, that's what it comes down to. It's a 20% collection of the voters that are in the middle, that aren't going to draw a party line. And again, that percentage may go up or down based on any election or what time in the world it is, etc. But that is kind of disheartening. That is how the ultimate leader of our country is selected, by a very low percentage of people that aren't going to vote just party line. So now let's delve into the whole electoral college thing. The electoral college is basically, if you don't know, it's a number designated to your state. Okay, 50 states plus DC get a number of electoral college votes. These votes are basically figured out based on the population of your state. You're given a higher number based on the higher number of population that you have in your state. Therefore, states like California and Texas have very high numbers. States like Iowa and Wyoming, not so much, because those are lower populated states versus very densely populated states like California and Texas. So, um, I fully appreciate and love the fact that we have an electoral college system here in America. Now, the obvious detractors to it would be people that say, like, but it's a democracy. Democracy is supposed to go with what the majority wants. Didn't Al Gore get more votes than George W. Bush? But wait, didn't Hillary Clinton get more votes than Donald Trump? So we've had two elections just in the past 20 years where the person went on to be president and not have the majority vote for them. Like, that's kind of peculiar, isn't it? To call yourself a democracy, yet the person that got more votes than the other guy 2 times in a row lost? Or girl, if you want to call it. Okay, I won't go there. Anyway, um, yeah, I do see the blatant hypocrisy of calling yourself a democracy and 2 times that a ultimate leader in just the past 20 years has been selected, and it's not the only 2 times it's happened where the ultimate leader has been selected with without getting the majority of the voters to vote for them. I get that. But here's the thing. I go by what makes the system countrywide fair. Um, People will be like, well, obviously the fair thing is who votes for more people. Well, here's the thing. What makes things fair from an issue standpoint, they should care about me because my vote means something standpoint? Because if you didn't have an electoral college and you just went with whoever won the popular vote, um, the way of campaigning, the way of delving into issues would be completely different. Because let's be real, those plain states, the flyover states, the quote unquote farming states in Central America, the quote unquote Bible Belt, whatever you want to call it, those states and their issues would be so delegated down the rung of caring, as far as campaigning goes, as far as issues go, as far as incentive to even give you guys the time of day goes. Because why would a candidate spend their time campaigning there? You're so sparsely populated. I mean, you would just stay and focus on the needs of Texas, of New York, of California. Talk about nothing but crime issues and punishment. Talk about rural development, homelessness, etc. Issues like that would always be on the top of the docket because that's where you can get the most votes. Why would you not focus on the issues that would win over the hearts and minds of where the most voters are? And those are in urban America, not rural America. They would focus on all the densely populated rural areas, and suburbia. Like those flyover states, like there's an issue with farming and agriculture. Yeah. New York City doesn't care about that, neither does LA. For the most part of those voters, they don't care. They don't care about, cornfields in Iowa and any sort of agriculture reform that may be needed. Gives a shit. Who cares about any sort of like solar power or anything like that, windmills, anything? Who cares? Anyway, and you can say, yeah, well, all those things, some voters would care about that, but yeah, well, still, the candidates will talk about issues that just appeal to those areas. They're going to, campaign in just big cities, and it's a shame because I look at things, what makes things the fairest across the country, what gets the most issues addressed, and I feel the Electoral College forces the candidates to have to pay attention to the issues from end to end in the country. Like they have to, because you can't afford to not give ear service, lip service, whatever service to the center of the country. Those lessly populated states, Leslie, that's a word, lesser populated states, You have to give them the time of day because you can't avoid the Dakotas, Iowa, any state in the center of the country because those are enough electoral college votes that it could swing one candidate over the other. So, um, I really appreciate that, and I do feel that the everyone that got together at the Constitutional Convention and planned out and had a vision for this country saw that this country is going to be the way that it is, that it was already becoming the way that it is. Once we got those pesky Indians out of the way, but that's a whole different story. Um, that we saw this as an expanding country with densely populated urban hubs, just very vast areas of sparsely populated farmland and small little town centers and stuff like that. That an electoral college will absolutely give the voice to everyone in this country. And I do feel that uh, everyone that formed this country saw that coming and did the right decision to make that system. And I feel it is the right system and is the correct system for how things are set up now. Now, how I'm going to combine these two and make a final point here is where I find the most contention with everything, because I would love for there to be a viable third party candidacy system, representation of third party. But here's the thing: if you are for viable third party candidates, politics, someone running against the main two, I don't see how you can be for the Electoral College in this country. And therefore, if you are for third party, you have to be against the Electoral College. Because if anyone, like I don't know, say The Rock or Oprah, or they both run the same ticket together, they run on the third party ticket and they take away Electoral College votes, you know, even if they took just 50 Electoral College votes, like just say they won just a couple states, whatever, the Rock won, California, because he's super popular celebrity and so is Oprah. Say they just took just the state of California. That alone would be enough, if my math is correct, where neither other candidate could hit 270. And you need that 270 votes to win. So now you have a general election that went through its entire procedure and we don't have a winner. Campaign funding is just out the window because everything is spent. It's like, oh, now shit, what do we do now? So that's the thing. Like, I would love for there to be a third party system in this country, but how can you? How can you with the Electoral College? Again, as much as I say that I love the Electoral College, I love the Electoral College and how it just encapsulates the entirety that is the system of the two-party process. Now, I would love for there to not be a two-party process, but since there is, I think the fairest way to have that two-party process hone down to two candidates and select one ultimate winner, the Electoral College is that best way to do it. But I want third-party politics to be an actual thing. How can it be a thing? Can it be a real thing? We'll talk about that tomorrow because I want to give you my one way of how we could have more than one person to vote for in the first Tuesday in November. But again, we'll talk about that tomorrow. So thank you again here. Hello to all the future Russian bots that come over and say the same thing over and over again. Anyway, take care, and I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow morning. Halloween. There's nothing to do with the video, though. That is all.